Hey, Read Through the Word. Today is January 13th. My name is Lisa Nance, and today's lesson is called Edom. We are in Genesis chapter 36, verses 15 through 19. It says this. These, you're going to say, oh no, more begats. These are the descendants of Esau's oldest son. These are the descendants of Esau who became the leaders of the various clans. The descendants of Esau's son, Eliphaz, became the leaders of the clans of Teman, Omar, Zepho, Kenaz, Korah, Gatam, Amalek. And these are the clan leaders in the land of Edom who descended from Eliphaz. All of these were descendants of Esau's wife, Adah. The descendants of Esau's son, Reuel, became the leaders of the clans of Nahath, Zerah, Shammah, and Mizzah. These were the clan leaders in the land of Edom who descended from Reuel. These were the descendants of Esau's wife, Basemath. The descendants of Esau and his wife, Oholibamah, became the leaders of the clans of Jeush, Jalam, and Korah. These are the clan leaders who descended from Esau's wife, Oholibamah, the daughter of Anah. These are the clans that descended from Esau, also known as Edom, identified by their clan leaders. Okay, so, I think I'm getting ready to go do a Facebook Live in a minute about this. So, by the time you see this, you will like, hey, I recognize that shirt and those earrings. That's what everybody asks me. My shirt and my earrings. But, my lessons, if you're new here, I am a school teacher. And that's a long story. That's not how I started off, but that's what I am now. And, but I'm a nerd. And so my lessons tend to be nerdy because I'm not a good, I deal with facts and, connecting things. So that's how I teach. So when we read all of this today, I know today's reading is overwhelming because it's all about Edom and descendants, and you see we're back in Chronicles again. And I want us to remember as we're reading scripture, context, context, context. I say this all the time in my classes at school, and I am teaching a Wednesday night class at my church on an overview of the Old Testament right now. We're calling it, Old Testament Express. And it is looking at context to be able to understand as we're reading what we're reading. And so I think that right here, we need to understand why all of this Edom, when most of our story is dealing with descendants of Jacob and his 12 sons and the tribes that will continue through the Old Testament. So I want to sort of help understand why. So now, even if you've not read the Old Testament, you probably know the name Moses. And by the time we get to Moses is who writes the first 5 books of the Bible. So Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy they're also known as, the 5 books of Moses. They're known as the law. The Hebrew name for it is the Torah. It's also known as the Pentateuch. In Greek, that just means 5 books. And so the Pentateuch, the law, the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, that's what these are. So before I was a school teacher, I teach at a private Christian school. Before that, I homeschooled my children. And I still remember when my oldest son is 24. He's a police officer in our town, and my husband's a retired police officer from the big city next door. But my oldest son, when he was probably in 3rd grade or something, I remember teaching history with him, and this is how I taught it. We didn't start with creation. I started teaching him with Moses because I was going through the Bible. And what I did was we followed Moses and the children of Israel through the Exodus. and out. Because during that 40 years of the wilderness wandering is when Moses writes Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. So, these people needed context. So they knew, I referenced this the other day, they knew that they were the people of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They could tell you a little bit of their story. They knew that this God has, spoiler, set them free from bondage and slavery in Egypt. But they really don't know who he is and how he acts with his people. And so Moses writes this down for them. So what you see is when Moses is writing, that's why you see Moses referencing people that have not even shown up yet. And that's the importance of Amalek in here, is that he already knows that these people are important. And Moses knows because they've already had interaction with the people of Esau. And these people needed context. Esau and his descendants, we already see this, that when Jacob comes back home and he meets with Jacob meets with Esau, and Esau, they reconcile, but Esau and his family go and they settle in the mountains of Seir, S-E-I-R. And what we see is then the land will be known as Edom. Now, there is some understanding that the land was called Edom before Esau. Now, Esau was known as Edom because if we see, if you look in like your footnotes of when he's born, it talks about the hair that covered him was a little bit red. And so he was known as Edom for red. He also sold his birthright for a bowl of red soup, lentil soup. And the land of Edom is known because of the red rocks that are there. So we have this whole play on words of Edom. I'm going to link an article, a Bible Study Tools article for you to see that. So the Israelites are descendants of Jacob. The Edomites are descendants of Esau. Now, they are put into context here by Moses because they've already had run-ins with them. And he's explaining, hey, there are cousins, by the way. They had already had run-ins with them. In Deuteronomy, chapter 2, verses 1 through 5, we see God telling them as you're traveling, don't take the land of the Edomites. They're your cousins. And in Numbers chapter 20, we actually see that Edom is going to get in trouble because of how they do not treat Israel as their brothers. And so God does not, from that point forth, the Bible will mention Edom as Israel's enemy. And so all of those names, remember the other day when I talked about names actually end up as places, people, the place names are typically people names applied to them. So when the original audience is reading this, they go, oh, yeah, we know those people. We went through their land. They weren't so nice to us. So it's context for them. But it's context for us too, because some of those names, when you read them, are going to show up again later. So they fought frequently throughout the Old Testament. In the time of Saul, in the time of David, you will see constant struggles with the Edomites. But God justly deals with Edom because of the actions and the attitudes that Edom, the nation, has towards Israel. The Old Testament book Obadiah is what that is. It's all God talking to Edom for not being their brother's keeper. And he said, I will wipe you off the face of the earth. You will not be known anymore. They're going to be driven out of their land, and then they will be cut off as a people. And that's exactly what happens. But that always, Edom in rebellion to Jacob is a constant thing. It is constant there, even once they're driven out of the land. In the New Testament, they are not known as the Edomites. They are known as the Idumeans, Idumeans. And I'll put that in your notes. So through those descendants, the Idumeans, the rebellion of Edom against God and Israel and the God of Israel will continue. And we know one family name of their descendants. They're known as the Herods. We'll see you later next time on Read Through the Word.